George, could you do roll call, please?
Here.
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 Okay, thank you. We'll open it up for public comment here on a February 26th, our second meeting of the year. Hearing none, we'll go right into our next item. Can I have a motion for approval of our minutes from January?
Motion to approve minutes.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Approved. Have a presentation. 2032 Locust Street. It's a waiver request for a subdivision plan.
Good evening, my name's Dave Dane. Good day, we prepared the original plan. This back away existing properties.
This is on YouTube or something. You have to talk into the microphone or it won't be picked up at all.
This is a subdivision that is originally at 2000. Actually, 275, 2000. Lot line region figure. What was a garage is the conversion house. And one of the requirements. In starting the construction contractor, it's also issues that been very light into so field township inspection. They wanted to move the curve into the water. So you would and when you got the better. $18.7. It's the same issue of key. The reasons that they wanted to have this or pushed out were a few of them. There's a pine tree that's in front of the house. It's the sidewalk, the sidewalk is actually a picture of shows the angle looking down the street. But it's a pine tree here at the bottom. Shown in the 20-inch trail. They're also concerned about drainage with the house that sits further up Pleasant Ave. Because of that, it was formerly garage, if you were elevation on that, down lower than it would have been. And that curve was going to be curtain side up there with the 12-inch above the elevation at this western point, and then in front of the east edge of the house. So they were very concerned about drainage. And wanted that extra 5 feet above that radius. in front of our. We also spoke to parking and also they needed the car and put block on. So. But way that through the plan was that the sidewalk within 11 feet of this house here. And then within 15 or 16 feet of the house for the garage. So it is, quite close to dwellings and they also. Those are the reasons for the waiver. I have reviewed this request. That are going to be issued. First item is that there's another portion of that ordinance. It's heard young or that we had one. We would also have to do. Down at number 5, says please note when you have part of the lower than the threshold. Other views were, we have worked with 6-inch sidewalks, this very clear explanation of what's required, but all out. We'll make sure that we can kind of react. We on this ladder, this is, we provide instruction, sports, put on ladder truck. We'll seek confirmation that very large but in item 4A, discusses the fact that for a fire truck, we get food in there at that time. It's going to be beneficial for the sign and parking from the problem. No. There. I think any fire truck and fire truck on an incident is going to be using the fuel better stop to the market. So that's it right on the machine. Last item in the letter, 6 is a site. Was part of the subdivision. And I tried to illustrate something here. It's a little bit of an unusual. The ordinance says 75 feet from an intersection road to the center line, basic job here at Lotus Street. Like that, it's on that angle over there. East. So the site triangle works out along the 75 feet out. The issues with something obstructions. So. But it's review letter. We will file it.
Well, one thing that I would want to clarify is that the 12 feet and the 17 feet, that's from the center line of the right of way for the road, not the actual center line of the cartway. So,
I didn't know.
yeah.
One of the issues, excuse me, one of the issues that is mentioned here, which I have no idea what the answer is, fire marshal would, which was the 62-foot ladder truck that you're doing your excuse me, your turnaround radius computation. Is that what we have here in Upper Chichester? Is that, or do we know, has the fire marshal confirmed that or not?
No.
Well, I think I don't know about how anybody else feels, but I think that's necessary for us to go forward with the recommendation. And if we did recommend this to go forward, that would be one of this, assuming that the fire marshal would approve that.
Yeah.
And I would say that that's also, the length of the vehicle is a part of it, but also, the distance from the wheel, the front wheel axle to the front of the vehicle and the rear wheel axle to the rear of the vehicle has an impact on how that vehicle is able to make a turn. And so all of those dimensions would need to be confirmed, not just the length of the vehicle.
Is that understood?
Yeah.
Okay. The other part, which is actually a recommendation from the engineer, because of the sight lines and whatnot, to have the no parking signs put in, and I see the modification here also reference to no parking here to corner. Now, the question would be, which corner are we talking about?
At Pleasant and Locust, yeah. Our concern would be is if there's a vehicle parked there, or, right now it would be, you could have a vehicle parked on either side. Fire truck wouldn't be able to get through. And then with the turning template or, a fire truck would not be able to get down, continue onto Pleasant Avenue if a vehicle was parked on either side.
So basically, the bigger concern is what, the tree? Pine tree that's there, as far as it being too close to the curb if you do a 17-foot setback?
I think drainage concern. It's large. That's.
Because I'm looking at the drainage, it looks like the drainage is going from left to right on Pleasant Avenue. So I don't understand what the 5-foot difference would be if it's going left to right, going downhill down Pleasant Avenue.
Pushes it closer to the house. The driveway is going there.
Yeah, but if you put it like a pervious driveway in or something like that, with that, offset. For the drainage. Or some other situation, it's not like the slope is heading towards the house and you need as much room as possible for drainage, it's actually going along. So it seemed It costs too much of a difference either way.
Now there being a curve in it, first time they'll get right close to the edge. And, so.
Oh, I think the curb would help water from coming onto the property though.
So that's just creating the area, so it's higher now, so it creates, bringing line inside. Slope towards the house. It's. Where it starts at. You get that extra 5 feet, you can make that. Say, Brennan, and you know, the building code is. Written that it's supposed to slope away from the house 50 feet. Recommends at 5%. And, you know, on 2%, but that is part of the building code. So I think they do have an issue there. You have some, you could sadly, which is a fact. That would be much closer to the parents.
So, are you claiming that the grading as shown on the approved plan does not work? There was an approved plan that,
The improved plan was approved without. Plan is where it is. By law. That's. Right.
So what I'm looking at is for the property, that there's no sidewalk, there's no curb there. So technically, all the water that's on the road should just wash right onto the property, because it looks like it's pretty much even at that point. There's no slope to the wet. So just by virtue of putting in a curb, I would think would greatly help. Water not coming onto the property. It's gonna drain down Pleasant Avenue. To me, then since you're already doing an improvement, it doesn't seem like it's much of a difference if you're having a feet or you're 5 feet, because you're already improving just by virtue of having a curb.
Yeah, I guess their concern was the drainage is coming from. Not on the street, that, hey, we're going down. Drainage is coming from. Basic areas. Drive. That's.
I'm looking this up on, what is it, Google. Don't look at the picture on Google, seeing where the pine tree is.
Good.
Previous subdivision plan from you, two existing structures were divided, and with that, it was recommended for approval with the sidewalk and president for that, we're going to all the process to be going from the construction. We're president on wall, we have to notice that there was improvements made that we not made for the plan to approve. And that work was stopped by the inspector. And this really was because this was the work that we did, and this work was not what the plan. It's only things that really that according to the sidewalks, it is a job that part of
Maybe it'd be helpful if we could see the previously approved, plan that was previously approved. That might be helpful in terms of this printout.
I have an 11 by 17 copy of it, but it's not, I mean, it looks very similar to the plan that you have now, except that the curb is set back towards the house 5 more feet.
So the biggest difference is the curb and the setback.
Yes. Yeah, there's no other change. Yeah.
On that point about the curb, uh, you're proposing a curb and you're also proposing a driveway for the second structure, one-story garage
Yeah,
that doesn't exist now?
yeah, that was part, that's already been
That-
approved, that's
yeah.
already some plan. So the location should be curve in closer to the street, 5 by 5 feet.
And that's what's going to narrow the street. And the installation of the driveway for the garages, along with the curb, is going to, it's possible, could interfere with drainage.
It's gonna push some drainage through that front yard area. And it's gonna be closer to the house, but the low point of the former garage is gonna be probably somewhere around 8 feet. But, you know, it's something that there's not
Who's not comfortable with?
the other. Right now, the curves moved out, it's supposed to, where they actually was. It's not narrow, was previously, set, ever created, raised that form. Something water. Which is approved.
And the narrowing of the street is about, what, 5 feet?
5 feet from what was approved. So what was
Yes.
approved, the street is wide, like 5 feet or 80. In front of this garage, in front of the house, down till we got close to the corner, then crossed out. Raised.
So by the one-story garage, the cartway originally, before any kind of land development, was 20 feet wide. The approved plan had it at 25 feet wide, the cartway. And then this brings it back, or, about 25 feet wide. This brings it back to 21 or 20 feet wide. At that location by the one-story garage. Down by the corner, or the proposed corner, before development, the width of the roadway was 30 feet wide. The approved plan reduced that to 24 feet wide. This plan now reduces it to 19 feet wide.
And the fire marshal has signed off on the ability of a fire truck to be able to get in and out of this, or traverse Pleasant Avenue, and to be able to, I guess, turn around if they have to.
The fire marshal has not.
Are you asking for a waiver for 19 feet on the narrowing of the street? For the ability to narrow the street, are you asking for that
Yes,
without the fire marshal's approval?
well, it would be,
Subject.
it would be subject to the fire marshal.
Okay. Is there going to be a driveway, or is there already a driveway on the one-story dwelling? Is there an existing driveway there?
Yeah.
Well, you'll have to have you'll have to have a driveway of some type if you're gonna have signs that say no street parking. Okay.
Existing. Was that had cars close to the house park would stick out on the side.
Then they're not gonna be able to have 3-car parking then.
House park side. 7 feet, but that's 5 feet. With give them the ability to park 3 cars or down block side.
Okay, all right, well, I'm just, as long as there are no cars, and cars belonging to the residents are on the street, if they're asking for that signage. The only thing you're talking about then is to make sure there's proper drainage with the sidewalks installed. And the driveway for the one-story garage.
This would require a restriction of parking on both sides of the street.
Well, yes, I can see that.
Yeah.
If you're narrowing it to 19 feet, yes. How are the neighbors with that?
Yeah, because as is right now, since there's no sidewalk, you park on the grass. The roads as well as you want,
On this side,
on either side.
No, the other side's got curb, it's a house.
Okay. So yeah, once you actually put down sidewalk, then it's a many acre. And it's all people get from the street office. I don't know if I would be happy.
Yeah, that's a
Situation.
people see if they have if the other side doesn't have driveways, right?
there's no driveways on the other side. Leave the house space and focus.
No, the house faces Pleasant Avenue and there's a car, I'm looking at Google pictures over the years, and it's a car that parks directly in front of the steps, which is right on Pleasant Avenue across the street. They have a two-car garage located on Locust. All right, they probably use that, maybe use it, but every picture just happens to be parked right there because they can walk out the front of their door and right to the car. If they put no parking signs up, I don't think they're going to be happy campers. I think we ought to have some way of finding out if their township would have some kind of notification to the resident who lives there that they're talking about putting no parking signs up, whether they would be happy. The way I'm looking at this right now, you're hung up on two things really, and it's the fire marshal signing off on whether or not they can get their truck down there and have a turning radius sufficient enough to make them be able to make their turnaround. And the no parking signs, and the no parking signs make a lot of sense. The only other question I had is, and I don't know if you know, but maybe George would know or somebody, what's the speed limit on this particular street? Is it typically a 15 or 25 mile an hour speed limit on Pleasant?
Yeah.
25?
I'm looking at this, and these are the current on this, and there isn't walkway that's further down the street, not near this property.
It's going to be restricted on both sides of the street. There's the house. There's the cars.
Yeah, so where we're talking about restricting it would not be over here. That's a couple hundred feet up from that intersection. I think what Andrew would agree would be this is this property here, which has, it does have a private, so it's an alleyway. So there is access from this alleyway. The house is way up here, it's this house. So, we wouldn't restrict parking here. He has a curb. Their curb is 12 feet from the center line of the road. It's, let's see, from both roads, they curb. Second, where we're asking second. But that property again is further to the west. Parking we never wouldn't have restricted unless probably theoretically should for a fire truck to get through here. The whole street's on the 20 feet. Fire marshal would probably like to have no parking at any time or one-way street. That's this neighborhood, the streets are pretty much all on their spots.
Well, again, with the turning radius issue and with the possibility of there being no parking, either whether it be no parking on both sides or no parking here at the corner or whatnot, that issue really is going to turn on whether or not the fire marshal is comfortable with being able to get his equipment down the street. So if the fire marshal comes back and says, no, I can't accommodate that, then you're either going to have to give up a tree or do something else here. All right, so
Again, I'm a great fire marshal. was not, approved.
Right. I mean, I understand the drainage concerns and everything else, but again, we're dealing with a plan that was approved, everything was laid out. There were a couple of mistakes made that were caught and construction was halted for that time. We've made some corrections. It looks like we're down to just a fire marshal issue here. If the fire marshal can sign off on to there's his satisfaction, that he can get his equipment down the street, then if there's another proviso about the parking, no parking concerns, I don't know, that's something the commissioners will have to concern about other residents on that street, and whatnot, whether they have any concerns. If it's a fire marshal concern, I guess the other residents maybe they don't have any rights. I don't know. But it would, if I lived there, I'd be concerned. Certainly. Anybody have any other comments? So we get a motion to approve it, subject with fire marshal's approval here on the turning radius, parking concerns.
Motion to approve, subject to the fire marshal approval.
Second.
Favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, I'm an aye. So we got, it's going to the commissioners with the conditions as stated. The last item on the agenda here is the review of the data center zoning ordinance. Andrew, I don't know if you have anything you want to add here or whatnot, or
No, I did talk with the planner. They indicated that, the changes that were requested by, the planning commission were incorporated into, what you have before you. They also spoke with, a couple of the commissioners, and I believe that the solicitor's office has looked at it as well, and that, you know, the summation of all of that is what you have before you.
anybody have any concerns or comments?
Yeah, well, my main concern is still for the residents of that old Twin Oaks area and Excelsior Village, which are divided by the CSX operation. My concern is about putting another business there, another enterprise without shrinking the scope of the existing operation of CSX.
Okay, that's has to do with any plans that may come up in the future with respect. This is just on data centers themselves.
Yeah, well,
What the requirements are for the data center to be able to submit a plan here in Upper Chichester.
yeah, so those two neighborhoods are in Area 3.
The available land that's available, yes, is in Area 3. There's 2 areas there. I believe that was shared with us. But that's nothing to do specifically with the ordinance other than to deal with the size of the building that would be required. And I think we've addressed that in the.
I still need to put on the record my concern about any appreciative size, building size for this for any type of operation of that scope and its existing impact when there's already a large operation that's currently in service or currently operating now. I need to put that on the record.
All right.
Sorry, James Halligan for the record. We have reviewed the amended ordinance, specifically addressing those concerns or maybe minimizing those concerns. Again, just revisiting this issue. This is a proposed ordinance to incorporate within the zoning code the definitions for data center, accessory uses and substations. And the zoning districts that they would be conditional uses in would be in the industrial zoning district and the township line commercial district. However, with that said, the conditional use under the MPC would require two phases to it. One, any proposed data center would have to come before this commission for review and for a recommendation letter from the planning commission to the board of commissioners whether to approve or deny the applicant. The second phase is, unlike a special exception or a variance, which would go before the zoning hearing board, the second phase is that the matter would go before the board of commissioners for the township, the elected board of commissioners, to have a hearing on the conditional use. And this ordinance, as proposed, sets forth the standards for the data center or data center accessory uses. And again, to hopefully minimize some of the concerns, but we don't have a specific application before this planning commission or the board, like the board of commissioners this time. There are conditions set in here for building restrictions for the data centers and for the proximity to residential uses, specifically a data center or an accessory structure shall not be 500 feet or less from the property line of existing residential uses. In addition, it should not be 500 feet or less from R1, R2, and R3 residential zoning districts. Again, should not be less than 500 feet from R1, R2, R3 residential districts, or the property line of an existing residential use. Again, not less than 500 feet from a residential R1, R2, R3, and the existing property line. There are also standards set forth in here for design guidelines for the facade, for the landscaping and buffering. I believe it was mentioned last time about the lighting conditions from the CX rail line, correct? There are conditions in here for the lighting, the exterior lightings for the buildings, that they are not to exceed 0.2 or 0.2 of foot candles, and I had to look that up myself. So that's 2.15 lux, which is considered a low-level safety-focused illumination standard. The illumination levels are supposed to be not interfere with the abutting residential zones if they should exist. There's utility standards in here. There's air quality standards. There's fire and explosive hazard standards that need to be met. Again, there's the glare and heat impacts. In addition, the applicant would have to demonstrate to the township that it has adequate means for wastewater disposal. The applicant would also have to provide information regarding the noise levels, that it would have to comply with the noise regulations as set forth currently by the code in the township. And it would have to make recommendations regarding sound reduction and material system. Sound reducing materials and the systems to reduce the sound for the adjacent districts. In addition, once a certificate of occupancy would be granted, there would have to be an additional study 6 months later on that sound. And there's also conditions for odor, vibration studies to be performed to demonstrate it, that they don't exceed past the property line for the applicant. The applicant would have to demonstrate that there were sufficient water resources for the facility. I did not look into this specifically further, but there are standards in here for the applicant to provide information to the township that there is no imminent danger for radioactivity from the site. and there would have to be a traffic study submitted to the township. There would also have to be, the applicant would have to provide information regarding the environmental impact on the area. And there would also be compliance reporting every 3 years after the certificate of occupancy was issued. And then there would have to be a plan in place, and there would be financial security equal to the amount of 110% for the decommissioning of the site, should it be decommissioned at a point in time. And as we, Mr. Needles addressed at the last hearing that the planning commission had, the purpose for the township to amend the zoning code to include these provisions would be because at this point, the zoning code for the township has no definition or standards for data centers, accessory structures, and the substations. Without that, it would be permitted use anywhere. And there is been proposed legislation, and some of it has been taken back by the state house and by the state senate, to have the state legislature set the standards and preempt the municipalities from having this authority within its zoning districts to set the health and welfare standards for its community. The governor has this is not legal standards, but this is news article research I've also done on this, has already engaged in bringing in what we call, I don't want to mispronounce it, but massive data centers in Luzerne County and Bucks County through with Amazon. So I believe it's our advice, I believe it's the planning, the township planning planners' advice to the township at this time that they need to move forward with an amendment to the zoning code to give the township some legislative authority and executive authority to protect the residents and the zoning districts, with your concerns noted. But these, we don't have an applicant at this time, but this would give the township the position to make sure that the appropriate standards are in place. And with the planning commission reviewing that applicant's application, and then whatever recommendation came from this commission, the Board of Commissioners would also have the authority to hear and make a determination whether that conditional use is appropriate, no matter whatever, whether it wound up in the applicant was in the industrial zoning district or the township line commercial district. So hopefully that recitation that I went through this again. I know Mr. Crotty worked with Brian on this, but I went through it again just because I was asked to make sure that I was versed in case the commissioners here tonight had any questions about it. So hopefully that answers your questions regarding that.
I'm in agreement with the amending the ordinance for this purpose. I just wanted to get those concerns, but in addition, there's another one. The existing CSX operation in my opinion, operates unsafely in an unsafe environment with the existing above ground gas lines that run adjacent to the operation. And so I'd like to make sure that that concern, when you talk about fire and explosive, that part of any changes or any wording rather that's added to the ordinance amendment look to address the existing hazard that has not been addressed, has not been looked at. There's no barrier between those gas lines and the CSX operation as we speak. So one must look at that and in depth before allowing for further business operations in that area. And we're just talking about now the part of Area 3 where CSX exists.
Does anyone else have any questions about the amendments? No.
our work or denial of application.
So I believe, yeah, I believe last time you sent your recommendation to move forward with it, subject to coming back this meeting with any other concerns you had. So I guess the motion would be for the board to make, the commissioners to make, be whether they have any other recommendations for the amendments other than what has been revisions that have been made. So
I think Greg's comment should be part of the record and that, other than that, we have no other further comments going forward.
I have one.
Okay.
So, and the noise, it just goes toward the regulations of the section of 6, whatever, which is, I guess, the noise ordinance in the township, I guess.
yes.
So with a data center, it's low, they have a low humming sound.
Mhm.
I doubt that noise ordinance will cover that.
So then there's the vibration study underneath that.
Okay,
So a vibration study will be formed to demonstrate the vibrations resulting from source material to the data center and data center accessory uses does not extend past the property line. The study will be prepared by a qualified professional. So I can't speak to the specific sites, but we've been acting as a solicitor for about the last year and a half. I know there's been other commercial properties that there been vibration issues from. So a required study should be addressed in the applicant's application before this commission and before the Board of Commissioners if and when an application was submitted.
okay.
And I know just as again tangentially related, but in my prior position, we represented Aston, and I know that they had an issue with vibration sounds coming from the idling trucks, but also from the facility of I believe another warehouse in their district. So, and they were trying to address that with post hoc a vibration study, but this would be upfront. So,
Okay.
Not for nothing, but I think one of the concerns going forward, just with everything that's going on, is that some of the traditional definitions of what we use to define sound or define vibration, I think they need to be, viewed going forward, that we have to have enough foresight to keep our eye on the ball, and if things are changing, then we need to affect the ordinance to accommodate that. It's basically, I think that's what Rob's saying.
Yeah, that it's don't want to go to an old code or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
When we have new technology that's
Yeah.
causing something different. Does that make sense?
yes, it does. Yes, it does. And that's why I think in the provision there, the study prepared by a qualified professional, that it would be used. Most hearing standards, whether it's quasi judicial and a municipal standpoint or an actual judiciary, it would require an expert to give some kind of report or testimony that they are using reasonably accepted quote unquote scientific standards in that field based upon the standards as they're set at the time.
So basically, we need to update our language.
Well, we can take a look at our zoning code, but if they presented something, hypothetically, if an applicant was in before you this evening and we had this code on the books, I would think it would be more than reasonable for this commission to ask their sound expert what their credentials are, but what reasonable scientific standards that they use, and are they the most recent scientific standards, and how they can prove those standards are what testing that they did can prove that those standards meet the definitions that's required.
All right,
But noted, we probably should look at our zoning code to make sure it's up to the most present standards.
so when was the last time that we had a significant updating of the language surrounding these types of installations? To your knowledge, when was the last time?
To my knowledge, I would have to defer and say I don't know because I've only been here for a year and a half. So, but it hasn't come across my desk in the last year and a half for any amendments regarding sound. So.
Well, regarding any of the types of things that that come into play with today's technology in terms of building and its impact on the environment. So we should look at and say, well, these codes that were written to cover this stuff, how long ago were they written? We're in 2026 now. Should we make some major changes to the language to incorporate what gets built today?
Understood.
Well, I think you can accommodate that by using general, except the Webster's language, and then just go in with another ordinance that amends something that says this will be considered under sound, this will
Sure.
be considered under vibration.
I would think that the concerns that you have for this particular use would apply to any use throughout the township, and therefore you would want to update perhaps the standards for the, noise ordinance in
Right.
general, as
Yeah.
opposed to just you don't want to have language in here that conflicts with other portions of the code, because then that gets into a situation where.
That's important too.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that's a good suggestion to review that. And, but, this is covered because the applicant or, under the conditional use would be required to provide that impact statement upfront before even getting to subdivision and land development. And so, that impact statement that they have to provide would then get reviewed, and ultimately the township would have the ability to confirm or deny or require further information if they deem it necessary.
Yeah, we want to be as forward-looking as we possibly can with the amendment to the ordinance.
All right, so the question I have is, have we decided on what our language should be to commissioners, or have we not?
Well, previously you did approve for it to go forward. I guess, do you need to make a motion? A motion that the commissioners take into consideration the issues with the CXX property.
Yes,
We'll make the motion.
I make a motion that when considering the amendment to the ordinance, that we consider the concerns expressed by the commission with regards to the current CSX operation.
Have a second? Favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay, motion's passed.
If you like, I can send a memo to the commissioners on that issue.
That would be nice.
Yeah.
Also like to thank the commissioners for taking into consideration our prior submission with respect to updates. I have one piece of information just to share, and that is there was some training that was sent to me with respect to offered by the state with respect to the MPC and whatnot, similar to training that you and Chuck and I had attended. And I offered that opportunity to Rob and to Bill, and the township would prefer that even the offer of doing that, I should have CC'd them in on the opportunity. So just for clarification purposes, when we have any communications between myself and you, or you and other members, to CC in, I guess it's now Mr. Gannon and you. Okay, Amy. Just on the communication. Well, George is out of it now. We fired him now. You can still send it to George. Yeah, and I thought one of those exceptions was training, where training is not a public type thing. I understand communications. That's why I just mentioned that. So we're on the same page. Add George back in. No. Now we want to make sure that, look, first off, nobody's doing anything with any secrets around here. So it's one of the things. Okay. Any other business? Mr. Lewis would like us to talk about the annual report to be
Everybody gets
distributed.
the annual report.
Does anybody have any exceptions or additions to the annual report?
I do not.
Okay, with that, let's put it in final form, send it forward, and we'll be timely, because it's due in March. Okay. Anything else? Motion to adjourn? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Adjourn.